So let's edit the Helix Nebula. I've got my file open here. This is 2x drizzle data. First thing I want to do is do a screen transfer stretch. Of course, if you do that while linked, it turns all green because you got more green pixels than red or blue pixels. So we uncheck the link channels and stretch, and it gives you a better idea of what you actually got on a balanced manner. So there's our Helix Nebula. First thing we're going to do is we're going to do a dynamic background extraction. With that, we're going to use the script, ZWO and automatic DBE. What I like about this is you can do the user-defined area so that we can actually tell it where not to put points for the dynamic background extraction, so it doesn't take out any of our nebula, or it doesn't cross-contaminate the nebula with the background. So we'll just go ahead and select our nebula. This is great for any small nebula type objects or galaxies that are bound and not diffuse nebula. So we're going to have to run a subtraction, and let's execute that. Now, as you can see on our background, there's no hint of where the nebula is. It's just a straight background gradient that's removed. So that's exactly what we want. So let's go ahead and stretch our new image. Iconize, minimize our old working image. Now I'm going to run the same process, ZWO automatic DBE, but this time I'm going to use the divide function, the correction type divide. Same thing, we're going to select the nebula so that it doesn't divide out any of the nebula. We look at this and I see no real hint of the nebula, just a background taken out. So stretch that. We'll go ahead and close that one. The previous one, so we've done an additional ADBE, dynamic background extraction on it. I'm going to rename this HN for Helix Nebula. Just gives us an easy identifier to work with. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the Blur Exterminator by RC Astro. Sharpen the stars a little bit, take the star halos down a little bit. And then sharpen on stellar, we're going to take all the way to 1 and see what we think. All right, let's zoom in on that nebula, and there's some hints there, but we'll actually do that again without the stars, and it gives a little sharper or a little less blurry result. But you can start to see some of the spokes there, and of course this was low on the horizon here in Baltimore, so there was a lot of atmosphere I was shooting through. It was never very high up in the sky. I think it peaked at like 27 degrees, which is pretty low. You don't typically want to shoot anything below like 30, but I don't get a lot of chances with this nebula, and I've always wanted to shoot this nebula. So next thing we will do is noise exterminator. Run that, get rid of some noise. All right, that looks better. Without the noise, it's more detail. That looks nice. So now let's go ahead and take our stars out of the picture. So we use the star exterminator. All right. So let's go ahead and we've got HN star, Helix Nebula, stars. Let's play with our stars real quick. So what I like to do is I use a SETI Astro script called Star Stretch. And let's go ahead and get the preview. Maybe you can see, I don't know, maybe you can't, but the stars are pretty green. So we want to remove SCNR, remove green via SCNR. We want to stretch those stars, usually about just before 6 is normally good for me, and I like to boost the color a little bit. So I'll put the color up about 10% to 1.1. Let's refresh the preview. Zoom back out to 1 to 4. I think that looks nice. So let's minimize our stars image. Left with our Helix Nebula. So I can see some very clear red bands over in here. And here the background is just not very, it's very smooth, but it's not very uniform. So for this, we're going to run it through Graxpert. So we've already run the auto DBEs. So let's run it through Graxpert on a divide and see how that ends up. All right, so that's kind of wonky. But I believe that is just due to the auto stretching. So let's turn the auto stretch off and let's do a stretch. So for this, believe it or not, let's use SETI Astro statistical stretch for my first stretch. And let's see if that wonkiness goes away or if it is still present. You see most of the wonkiness is gone. Let's turn our stretch down to like 0.11, automatic convergence, do a little bit of curves boost, and unlink the stretch, and refresh that. Zoom in on the nebula some. Take down the curves boost. Stretch it a little bit more, so you have to 1.3. All right. I like the way that looks. So let's execute that. All right, this is what we got now at this point. As you can see with the stretching, I like the way the nebula looks. It's not overdone. It's weird to run, let's see, sometimes I like running Blur Exterminator again at a very low setting. Just gonna get a little more deconvolution. Let's see what that looks like. Let's take a look at that. See if that looks overcooked or if it looks good. And that is at 100%. That looks pretty nice, actually. So we're going to go with that. Now you can see, maybe you can see through the YouTube that it actually created the stretching created brought out some more noise. So let's run the noise exterminator on it again, and we'll turn the noise exterminator down a little bit to 0.7 this time, and leave the iterations up at 4. Let's go ahead and run that. Get rid of some of this noise, smooth things out a little bit in the background. I'm assuming part of this speckled model is actually signal that could still be brought out if it was exposed for longer. So this is over 5 hours of data through the L-eXtreme filter. So I think it needs some more time. I'm waiting for some cloudless nights to do that. And that looks great. Yeah, that was great. All right. Still got a little bit of let's run GraphicsPart one more time because we still got a little bit of background that I don't like. So let's run that and see where that takes us. That was done really fast. I'm not sure why that was done so fast. And it's really I'd say it's no better, so let's not. Well, actually, no. Some of the red down here in this area is gone. So let's go ahead and accept that as our new working copy. Hold on to that, and this one we're going to get rid of. Okay. So let's go into hyperbolic stretch, generalized hyperbolic stretch, see if we can't get a little more data out of this. So let's put our symmetry point right there, right at the beginning of the lump, and let's turn on a preview so we can see what we're doing. We want to protect our highlights so we don't blow out the highlights. Let's stretch a little bit more. So that went from, so we brought out some more of the halo of the nebula at the expense of some of the background getting worse. Protect shadows is not going to help. And see, let's move our symmetry point a little bit. See if maybe I missed my symmetry point a little bit. Okay. So I like that, so let's accept that. Let's go into the linear and lower our black point a little bit. Raise our black point a little bit, sorry. Right about there, let's see with that. That's pretty neutral, but it's not blown out. I'm looking down at the very bottom at my counters. They're all not reading zeros. All zeros is black, all ones is white. So that's good. It's not quite clipped. It's very close. Let's actually back that off a little bit because that's very close to being clipped. Put it right there. And let's try a little bit more with this with the stretch. See what we get. Protect those highlights. Let's accept that. This is where we are now. So Let's run narrowband normalization on it. I'm going to keep it in an SHO type of palette. Lightness is, we can change the lightness because we are nonlinear. Lightness should only be used on nonlinear images, and we are nonlinear. So let's go ahead and hit preserve. Let's hit H alpha. Let's zoom in on our, see, lightness off, preserve, hydrogen alpha. Let's preserve the best. So we're going to boost the O2 a little bit more blue, boost the S2, get a lot more red, a little bit of SCNR. Get rid of the green and into the blue a little bit. Let the blue shine through. Just play with this till I like it a lot. Right about there, a little bit of that gold color. A little bit of that gold color. And brightness, we want to leave the brightness alone. Highlight reduction should be okay. Raise it just a little bit, just get a little bit more detail in those brights. Let's accept that. Let's go to our curves transformation. Let's again look at the zoomed in. All right, it does this sometimes. I don't know what's going on. It gets that little crosshair inside of the crosshair to 45-degree angles, and I can't choose anything. I honestly know what's going on. There we go. We hit on the edit point mode, and it's functioning again. So the edit point mode. So this is what we've done so far. We've lowered the background. Lost a little bit of that halo. So let's see if we can't get that halo back without. No, we can't really without banding. So let's see, our background that we want to vector is down there. We want the background to be a little darker. We want the halo to be a little bit lighter. We want our highlights to be a little bit darker. And this is what we've done. I think that's a nice change. Darken the background without the loss of any real detail. So let's accept that. Let's go ahead and zoom in again. And saturation. Add the saturation some. Where's this blue? Right there. Bring up that blue a little bit. A lot of it. And let's see, this part right here is a little hot. That's right there. So let's move this down a little bit. want to look right there is up a little bit. That looks nice. Let's up that. Now let's go ahead and change this magenta to a little bit more red. Let's see what we're doing. Actually, I really like that lower red. That's interesting. I didn't think I would like that. That's interesting. I like that. That really brings out the detail. Put it right around there. That looks nice. All right. Of course, still a bit of trial and error with what I'm learning. Okay, let's put our stars back in. See, our background's a little blue. So let's go and back to the curves transformation. And pull those dark blues down a little bit. I think that looks nice. That's better. All right, so let's pull up, let's rename this to Helix Nebula HN. Go to Pixel Math and HN plus HN underscore lowercase stars. Destination is going to be a new image. Let's go ahead and, there we go. Let's minimize this as a working copy over by the stars. Let's close Graxpert out of the way. Still see a band here, so let's just go ahead and crop that out because there's nothing really of interest here. I don't know why there's a band here. There's the one on the side a little bit too. So let's go into dynamic crop. Let's leave some stars, a little bit of context. All right, put our nebula in the middle. So let's say we like the width, so 5670 times 2 divided by 3 means our height should be 3780. And this is just to get into a 4:6 ratio for printing and matting to fit with the rest of my work. And we're going to, of course, oops. There we go. That's our full image. There we go. Full image. This is zoomed in on the nebula. A little bit too much. There's the nebula. And zoomed out. That is our image. So thank you very much. And I hope this helps someone. And I will see you next time. Goodbye.